welcome back to the Sanditon Chronicles. It's your host Maureen. Today this is coming out a little bit late because this is typically where we would put in our live video where we would chat with you online and in live real time. That's not going to happen today, and here's the reason. I love doing the lives. I love talking to people, but when I do the lives, there's only like one or two people who come on there. So it seems like that's not really the thing that you guys want to be doing, that you don't want to participate in the lives, you don't want to be part of it. So we're going to kind of do it this way, and I'm just going to kind of do it as I would on a live, only it's just me talking to you. So I just want to go over a couple of things with you. We are probably going to be taking just a minor little teeny tiny break here soon. I think we're going to do another, we need to go through the end of November, and then we'll be taking a little bit of break for December, because December, I don't know about you guys, but December for us is crazy. So we will probably be taking a season break right around then. But we'll be back. And I might even put some out through there, some Christmas specials, something like that. But we want to be geared up and ready to come back at you before the new season starts. And we're hoping that in that time, if I can get a lot of interviews in, if I can get a lot of the schedules for the cast and crew to be talking with, then I will schedule those for as much in December as I can. And then I won't have time to record this because I'll be doing those interviews. So that is my hope. Let's believe for that. Let's pray for that. Now, I know that they finished wrapping up season 2, right? They're in season 3 right now. I think I just kind of want to talk about, and this is going to be a shorter episode today too, obviously, because I'm not talking with you guys. But I will, if you guys, what I plan on doing here, this is the other thing, I'm all over the place. I know this is what happens when I just like, what is it? Freelance is the word I want to say, but that's not the word that I want to go with. But my hope is that if I tell you now in this week's video that our live is going to be next week, you guys will jump on the live, and I'm going to start promoting it on our social media platforms and asking you for things that you want to talk about, asking you for the questions you have. And that's another format that we might use. We might just set up a time where I answer questions that you've submitted to me, or I ask our fandom questions you submit to me. If you don't want to be on a live, but you want to know what the fandom thinks, send in your questions to me and I'll ask it on the live, and then people can come in. Now, the way the lives work, by the way, if you're using when I do lives, I do it 2 ways at the same time. I do a YouTube live, which is where you can communicate with me via chat, and you don't have to pay for it. I don't have that set up to where you pay me to do like the super chats or anything. You just come on there, watch us live, and you just ask us questions in the chat like you would on like Facebook. And what I do at the same time is I do it from our Podbean account, which is our main platform for our podcast. And in there, you come on online. If you 9 times out of 10 people are using their phone. I do it on my computer because it's easier for me to run different things at the same time. But you can use your phone on Podbean, and you can join the live, and you can essentially call in like you would on a radio show. You don't have to talk the whole time. If you just have a question, you can call in, and I have to approve you to come on. I have to say, okay, this person's invited to talk, and you can talk. And then it works out well. And so if you just had a question, or you wanted to say your 2 cents and then be done, that's totally fine. We've had some really awesome, Sarah and I think Mary has done it a couple times. They've been on almost all the lives. I think they've been on all the lives. And last week, they were nice enough to chat with me because no one else wanted to talk. So they called in and they were chatting with me, and I appreciate that. So that's another format that we can do. So I just wanted to remind you guys how the lives work, because we really want this to be a thing, especially once the seasons come out. What we want, because when season 2 and 3 comes out, it's going to be recap, right? Because every week it's going to come out, so every week we're going to come at you with a recap. Our schedule might change because I believe Sanditon, at least the day before, aired on Sundays, and that's when our podcast comes out, is on Sundays. So we're either going to be a week behind the podcast schedules, or I'm going to have to change the date when our podcast comes out. So be watching for that. But what we might do there, is we'll do our recap episode, and then, holy cow, maybe right after, I don't know what's in my throat. Maybe that's God telling me to drink some coffee there. Maybe that's what it is. This cup is massive. I have to use two hands for it. But maybe what we'll do is we'll have our podcast recap come out on a Sunday, or on a different day, and then after the episode airs, we'll do a live so we can all chat about it right away. And then we'll make sure to put on our title of that episode, spoilers live reaction to Sanditon episode 1 and episode 2, whatever. And I think that that might be a good way for us to interact with each other. I know that that won't work for everyone because there's some people overseas, there's some people in different time zones. I'm personally in the central time zone of the US, so it would have to be on my schedule. I could do it a couple hours after to accommodate everyone in the US. I'm not sure how that would work just yet, but that's something I would like to do because I don't know about you, after the episode airs, I have thoughts. I have so many thoughts. And like I've said several times on this podcast, when I was watching season 1, I was texting my friend after like every interaction, like, do you see this? Do you see this? Do you know this? So I'd like to have that. I really feel like there's going to be a lot of meat to these episodes. I'm talking kind of fast because my battery in my camera, I can see, is low. And it's not supposed to be low. I thought it was full, so I'm talking fast so I can get all out. I'm sorry about that. But let's talk what we've done so far. So this is, you may not enjoy this episode as much, and I'm sorry about that. But what we've done so far as of now, and I still want to keep this same sort of format. Again, that will change when the new episodes come out. We're getting 6 for season 2, so we'll at least have 6 weeks that are just recaps. But what I would like to do is keep the same format of recap and then after that season. But I would still like to keep the recaps. I would like to keep the interviews. I'd like to keep the character spotlights, and I'd like to keep the character dynamics. So those 4 will still be in the rotation. So we want to keep those because, again, there's new characters coming in here. There's going to be Allison. There's going to be Cosgrove, I think. I haven't looked enough into those names. I'm doing so many different things right now. I need to get a calendar to write down all my stuff. You'd think I would have done that. I'm an event planner. That's my day job, is I'm an event planner. You'd think that I would write down things, but I don't for the podcast. I don't know why. But I kind of wanted to keep that same schedule. And the reason is because when I started this podcast, I don't know if you guys remember, way back to the very first episode I did, it was 32 episodes. This is episode 33. So 33 episodes ago, the very first one I ever did, I kind of talked about why I wanted to do this podcast. And I kind of want to revisit that. I want to, because we've changed some things a little bit. We have struggled, actually, I'm surprised, but we've struggled to get people on our podcast to chat with us, to talk with us in doing just like what Janice and I do, or to even get people to come to lives. So my goal when I started this was I wanted to talk to the fandom about this show that we love. And it's harder. I'm surprised it's as hard to get people to talk with me about the fandom or about the show. And maybe it's a little camera shy. Maybe it's a little nervous about being heard. And that would be the great thing about the lives is you're not, if you're camera shy, the lives you're not on camera. I am the only one on camera on a live, and that's through YouTube Live. But when you call in, your face doesn't appear, your logo doesn't appear, nothing appears. It's just your voice. If you are more willing to communicate face-to-face, that's my preference, is face-to-face, because I'm a tonal speaker, and you can probably guess that a large portion of my communication is nonverbal, because, that's what I love. So I prefer face-to-face, but I'm willing to do the just audio too. But if you're like me and you prefer face-to-face, we can just sit down and talk like Janice and I do. It's just done via Zoom, and it's just having a conversation. Janice and I like to do the recaps together, and thank goodness for Janice, because she loves coming on our show, on our podcast, and you wouldn't believe it because she's on here so much, but she is just on here because she loves the show. She doesn't help me edit the podcast or anything like that. She's just she has a heart like mine, and she loves this show, and I love talking with her about it, and I'm really thankful for Janice. I'm thankful that she wants to come on here so often and talk with me about this stuff, because my husband doesn't want to hear about it. So I tried to get my daughters into it, and they weren't as into it, but I kind of want to revisit a lot of the things that we've done with the character spotlights. I like to dig deep into the characters, into their psychology, and I'm a writer too. So when I write out stories, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, I have somewhere where it's coming from, right? If I'm writing a character like Charlotte, and Charlotte makes this facial expression as I'm scripting it out, or she says this specific dialogue, or she goes this specific place, and that's what I've scripted for her, I have a reason why she's doing that. I don't put it down necessarily, but I have a reason why she's doing that. And so that's what the character spotlights, for me, that's what the benefit is, because we analyze what these characters are doing, what their motivation is. And yes, I would love Justin Young, dude. I'd love to talk with you. Andrew Davies, I'd love to talk with you too. I need to look up who the other writers are, because I know there's a team of them, but those were the only 2 that I found listed on IMDb Pro for Sanditon. But I know that Justin Young and Andrew Davies, when they write these characters, they have a motivation behind all the things that they're scripting. They have a reason why these characters are doing and saying what they're doing and saying. There's a reason for it. And for me, that's the best part about this. All that nonverbal sweet spot that I have for these characters and for this show, and it's so well done in this show. And I don't know if it's just down to great casting or what exactly it is. I know it's got a great script. I know it does have great cast, but it's like this perfect storm of things where these characters get you so attached and so in love with what they're doing and invested in what they're doing. It's, like, you see these commercials with, like, the horror shows, right? Where it's, no, run, they're coming, run. And you're yelling at this person what to do. Go do this, go do this. But it's not like an emotional investment. It's just because you can feel that fear. But with this show of Sanditon, you're emotionally invested in what these characters are doing. You're emotionally invested in the decisions they make. And the reason that we were so mad about Sidlot is because we have grown to love Sydney and Charlotte like our family. And knowing that they are not going to get a happy ending is devastating, because they're that perfect storm of script, of oh my gosh, I can't think, intuitiveness on the actor's part, their skill at acting, their ability to completely immerse themselves in these characters. All these things work together to make us feel like we are their family, like we are their friends. And so when we do our character spotlights and we dig deep into these characters, I know not everyone is like me. I understand that. I understand that not everyone cares as much about the unheard, unseen, unwritten motivations. I get that. That's totally fine. Not everyone has to be that way. But I think for me, that's what good writing does, is it makes you think, it makes you want to know more about that character. And for me, that's how I connect with them, is watching their facial expressions as they see things, watching how their body reacts to their scene partner, watching which direction their eyes go when their scene partner says something to them. That, to me, is what makes me connect with them, because that's a real thing, and that's an in-the-moment thing. And like I interviewed with Ollie Blackburn, if you have not seen that, seriously go watch that. That was one of my favorite interviews we did. He directed episodes 1, 2, and 3, Ollie Blackburn. And we got to interview him and talk with him for an hour about what it was like to be on the set and how he works. And one thing he said is that he likes to let the camera keep rolling after the scene is ended, because a lot of times that's where the real, authentic, good meat happens. And you can see that in the show. And in their editing process, they've done a really great job of keeping those moments in there that are real and authentic, and is just the actors responding to each other. And I think that's something that makes this show so, so great. And I don't want to give that up when we're talking about the show in the future. I'm not willing to give that up. Yes, we're going to do the 6 recaps, but once those recaps are done, we are jumping right back into our format where we are going to dig deep into those characters. We're going to dig deep into why they are the way they are, who they are, how they got to be who they are. We're going to dig into that, because that is something I think is so vital to getting people to understand, but also love the show the way we do. And I honestly think that if more people could see what's behind the dialogue, more people would love this show. Because it's that good. My husband, I think that when I talk a lot, I don't know if you could tell, but I talk a lot, and it's no different when I'm at my house. It's constant. My mom, when I was a kid, my parents are divorced, and she would pick me up from would spend half summer with my dad, and she would come and pick me up, and on the way back, I felt like I had to tell her every minute detail of everything I'd experienced over the last 6 weeks. Everything. And she would ask me a question like, well, what is your book about? And I would tell her almost paragraph by paragraph what the book was saying, rather than just giving a brief synopsis. And I remember this one time we were driving back after she picked me up from the summer, and she pulled over at a rest stop. And she said, hang on, I have to go get something from the trunk. And I was like, okay. And she got out, and I didn't stop talking. My stream never stopped. And I got out with her, and I watched her in the back of the car, and I'm just talking still. And I saw her take a deep breath, didn't click. And then she said, Maureen, I love you, but you need to stop talking. I'm going crazy. If you ever need a character description of me, that is it. I talk a lot. So when I talk to my husband about this stuff, it's hard for him to hear all the things I'm saying. But when I can talk to him about the background of a person, it's easier for him, if that makes any sense. It's not just me saying, this show's so great because Charlotte does this, and Sydney does this, and Edward does this, and Esther does this. I'm not just telling him what's happening in the show. When I talk to him about the show and my effort to get him to want to watch it, I'm trying to go in depth on motivations and the real meat of the story, which is the nonverbal, and the real trajectory of the story, which happens outside the dialogue. And it's those moments when my husband is more interested. And I don't think he's alone in that. I think a lot of people, for them, when we just tell them, oh, it's great because this happens. Oh, it's great because these characters do this. That's not enough. And so for me, it's twofold. I really like the psychology of the characters and trying to figure them out. That's something I'm really, really interested in everyday life. So for me, that's how I come at any show that I watch. Any book I read, any media at all, that's how I come at it. Even like when I watch cast interviews, I kind of watch their body language when they're talking to their interviewer. That's what I like. That's what I like about it. And so I think that is something that is, I do it for my own enjoyment, but I also do it because I think that I really do believe that if people understood these characters the way we feel we do, they would be more invested and more wanting to see the show. And as for the character dynamics, or the relationship dynamics, I think it's parlaying right off of the character spotlights, right? I mean, it's taking these characters and you're figuring them out individually, and you kind of have this idea of who's good for them or what's good for them, because you've already kind of figured out who they are and what they're about. So when you take a look at the relationships, it's the same sort of idea, where it's, well, no, I don't like you for you, because no, this is not who you are. For me, that happened when I first watched Sanditon, the first season, obviously because the second season's not out yet. Stringer and Sydney in relation to Charlotte. Now, obviously, a blind man could tell that Charlotte was attracted to Sydney and that there was a thing there. And if you know anything about Jane Austen, you know that that's the trajectory that they were going, was she's going to be with Sydney. I mean, you just, from the first time he insulted her, you're like, all right, that's it. That's who she's going to end up with. Because that's how Jane Austen writes. She writes redeemable characters, and you get to see the redemption arc in full. And so you knew, right? But as I watched this show, and I watched her and Sydney interact, and I watched how he was so closed off, and it didn't appear in the first couple episodes only. Mind you, first couple episodes only. He wasn't softening. He was just kind of mean. But then you knew that there was this deeper side to him. You knew that there was this side that had to be uncovered. You knew he was acting that way because he was broken and he was trying to protect himself. You knew that. Okay? So I did like him. But then you have James Stringer, on the other hand, who's coming up to Charlotte, and he's very kind, and he's very loving, and he's very gentle with her, and he's very supportive of her, and she appears to be supportive of him. And when I first watched this, I kept thinking, and I've mentioned this on here before, I kept texting my friend, she's in love with the wrong guy. She's falling in love with the wrong guy. She needs to be with Stringer. But that was because at that moment, in the first couple episodes, I felt I understood Charlotte enough to know that she's gentle and she's kind. And James Stringer was gentle and kind, and they would be mutually supportive of each other because that's their personality. Their personality was to edify each other and to build each other up and encourage each other to go on and do greater things and better things and continue to grow and be better. And that's what I thought. That's what I saw at first. And I saw Sydney not wanting to change. And we can't change people, right? It's not up to us to change people. They have to be willing to change themselves. So that was what I thought at first, because I knew Charlotte so well. And I felt like I knew the other characters so well. And then we get into episode 3 and episode 4, and you see that, okay, Sydney is actually willing to change. He actually is. And that's when you start to see that he is the better one for her, because, yes, Charlotte is sweet and kind and gentle. But two things together don't always work. I tell my husband frequently, if I was married to me, I would kill you. Or if you were me, I would kill you, right? Essentially, that's what I'm saying. If I was married to me, which means you're me, I would kill you. Because I can't live with myself. There's no way. There's no way that I can live with myself. So two of the same thing, bonding together, doing life together, it can work. But there's no spark oftentimes. That's why it's opposites attract, right? That's why that's a thing. That's why that came out. So for him, Sydney just needed someone to bring that on him. Someone to show him that he was safe. Someone to show him that it was okay for him to be who he was. And that's what Charlotte does to all these characters. And that was the other reason I was confused at first, because that's what Charlotte does to all these characters on these shows, or on this show. She does it with Tom, she does it with Mary, she does it with Stringer, she does it with Sydney, she does it with Arthur, she does it with Georgiana. Literally everyone she's talked to on the show. She has brought something out in them that they were afraid to let loose, that they were afraid to acknowledge what existed. That's what Charlotte does. So that was the other reason that I kind of felt Stringer was there for, or was good for her. But seriously, 2 hands for this cup. It's amazing. I just treated myself to this. Holy cow, it's almost the size of my head. I love this. This reminds me of Charlotte a little bit. That's what I got. It's got the, I don't think I've ever seen her in mustard. I'm pretty sure we have. Or maybe it's in the pictures for the new one. But I feel like these are Charlotte's good colors right here. That's why I picked it. But, so you get to know her through this. You get to know the other characters through that by analyzing, by getting to their heads. And then you see that when I saw Sydney coming out of his shell, being willing to let himself be vulnerable, being willing to be a partner with her, then you started, I'm not going to put this on anybody else, but then I started to see that, okay, that is who she needs to be with. You kind of felt like he always was, but until he was willing to change, it wouldn't have been a good relationship. It wouldn't have been something that she could be in. So that was my thing, is that, well, he's unwilling to change, so Stringer's the better one. She's wasting her time loving him if he's unwilling to change. And then when you saw him start to change, okay, Sydney's got to be the one. Sydney's got the passion, he's got the fire, and that's what she needs to bring her out. That's what Charlotte needs to be edified. And honestly, I think Stringer needs someone like that too. I think he and Charlotte are too similar. I love James Stringer. Love him. Kind of sad he's not going to be back, that we know of. But the reason I got to that place was because I spent time learning these characters as I watched it over and over and over and over and over and over again. I spent time with these characters. I spent time getting to know these characters. I put the effort into watching their body language, watching their facial expressions, because if you are good at what you do as an actor, a lot of what you put out there that is received by the audience is nonverbal. You become that character. And that's why I'm so against recasting. That's why I don't agree with that. I don't like it. I get that there's a necessity for it sometimes, and sometimes you can make it work, but in instances like this, you can't, because Sydney Parker was so completely taken over by Theo James, or rather the reverse. Theo James became Sydney Parker so efficiently and so well that no one else could be Sydney Parker, because Theo James is Sydney Parker. Same thing with Charlotte. If there was a reason Rose Williams couldn't come back, there's nobody else who could play Charlotte, because she is Charlotte. And that was the other reason I like to get into this show, because you look at Theo James's personal life and you look at him on screen, and granted there's not a lot about Theo James's personal life, and I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, just like random pictures you see, and I follow Ruth on Instagram, so you see kind of those glimpses. He's not Sydney, but he became Sydney for this role. And I think that that is something that is really a really magical thing to be able to do. The talent that you had to possess for that is really amazing. And you take that knowledge of him as an actor, or even Charlotte Rose Williams as an actress, you take that knowledge of them as doing a job, and then you put that to their characters and you see how they interact together. It's fascinating to me. And that's what really, really makes this show be full. It rounds it out. You take the characters individually and it's just this beautiful flower. Oh my gosh, I'm going to use a garden reference. I don't know why I feel it's a little cheesy. But you take this beautiful flower that is the one character that has this actress or actor has put everything into it. They've really dug deep. They've really done all the things that have made you fall in love with this character. And it's just one, right? Which is great. It's beautiful. You got a beautiful flower. But you take the other characters and you add them in and how they interact together, and they become this garden full of things. So you need that. And so the reason I started the character relationship dynamics is because I wanted to dig into what makes this work in relation. I mean, people watch shows, they watch movies to escape, right? But you don't want to, sometimes you do want to escape reality, I suppose. But for us, for me, when I watch a show, I want to escape my current reality, but I don't want anything too far-fetched when I dig into something deep. And I think that's something that Jane Austen does really well, is for those who don't want to experience something that's unrealistic or not logically sound in real life, you can escape into this beautiful world that she has created that is loving and it's kind, and you see victories. You see the wrong people or the bad people, the antagonists, you see them get what they deserve. You see the protagonists get what they deserve. Real life isn't always like that. So that's why we escape to these movies and shows. You want to see antagonists get what they deserve and protagonists get what they deserve. It's hopeful. It's joyful to see that happen. There are certain shows that I will never, ever, ever watch again because I was so angry at how they ended it and how they did the protagonist wrong. Deer Hunter is one of them. I will never ever watch that movie once. And I loved the entire, I don't know if you know what Deer Hunter is, but it's got Christopher Walken, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep. It's really well done until the ending. And I was so into it. I was really invested into it. Again, really great acting, really great cast. They're really good at what they do. I was very connected to this storyline. And then the end, because I was so connected to this storyline, the end destroyed me. And I will never watch that movie ever again because of that. So that does happen sometimes. But those aren't things I enjoy. When the antagonist doesn't get what he deserves and the protagonist doesn't get what they deserve. I don't enjoy those because that's not why I go to watch things. So Jane Austen does that really well. I think that those are really important things, and obviously the recap is important because we want to go over what is going on in each episode. Now, what the recaps are going to look when we start recapping season 2 and season 3, because we aren't going to have another recap until then. How sad is that? Is that we're just going to go over what happens in the episode, give our basic thoughts of what happened. We're going to try to limit our episodes to an hour. We want to make it easy for you guys to listen to our show on your commute or on your run or when you're working out or when you're doing your dishes, when you're cleaning, when you're doing whatever it is. And I know that sometimes when we have hour-and-a-half long episodes, it gets really long and really hard. And I've actually gotten better because I remember when we first started out, I think it was like my second or third episode, I remember saying, I'm so sorry, this was 50 minutes, I'll try to keep it shorter. And then when Janice and I get talking, our recaps end up being like an hour-and-a-half long. So I know when I do it myself now, I've got it down to almost a science where it's right under 60 minutes. So it helps that I have a timer too on my camera. So I mean, there is that. But we're going to try to keep our episodes down to an hour or right around an hour probably. I don't think we can knock down the recaps less than that. So what we'll do is after the episodes air, we'll do a live that same day, a couple hours after the episode ends. And then we will also do a recap video where it's just basic recaps of, this happened, this is what we thought. And then once the 6 episodes have aired, then we'll go into the character dynamics, the character spotlights, and interviews. So those are the 4 things we're really going to focus on is the recaps, spotlights, the character dynamics, and then interviews. Now, what I would really like to see are questions from you and ideas from you and what you want to watch, what you want to listen to. I forgot to put the poll in last week. So just so you have an idea of what my life is kind of like, I run 2 podcasts. I'm the producer of both of them. I co-own the other podcast that I started with our other group, which is Fandom Family Chats, is our other podcast. It's under, if you are in any of our other groups, like our Bridgerton Family Fan Clubs, anything that has family fan clubs on the end, those are our groups. And we started a podcast off of that. Now, what we are trying to do now is there's a big event that we are planning that's going to take a year and a half to plan. It's coming out in June of 2023. Keep your eyes peeled for that. But I'm also heading that up. So I'm doing a lot of these different things, and I forget a lot of times. I even forget why I started telling you this stuff. So I do run those podcasts. I do handle all these things. And the poll, that's why I started telling you about that. So I forgot to do the poll because I was working on our event that we have coming up. So I'll try to do that today. I really, really want to know what you guys would like to hear because I don't want to stop talking about Sanditon. So I will keep putting out content. I'll keep giving you things. I'll keep giving you episodes. I'll keep talking about the show. But I'd really like to know what you want to hear, what you want to listen to. If it's you want us to focus more on the actors, if you want us to talk more about the actors' roles, what they do, we're still going to have to tie it into Sanditon because I want to talk Sanditon. I do. But I'd like to know what you want to see. We can even put some games in here to make it a little fun, some rapid fire stuff. So those are all things that we can do. And I'd really just, my main purpose for putting this out is that this current episode, is that it's kind of ended a season because we finished all 8 recaps. We've gone 32 episodes in. This is our 33rd. And so I just kind of we're going to have to restructure a little bit, especially since we lost the interviews for now. Our plan is to start talking about some fan fiction. So if you have some fan fiction that you'd like us to discuss, send me your links. I know if you're on our Facebook page, which is Sanditon, the Sanditon Chronicles, Sanditon Family Fan Club, that's our Facebook group. We have a link in our announcements, or I don't know if it's called announcements still. Facebook keeps restructuring and changing things, which we don't like, but it is what it is. But in our announcements, or if it's a featured, I don't remember what it's called on our page, but on there we do have, we have a spot where you can put your Twitter handles. We have a spot where you can put your fan fiction links. So if you want us to talk about your fan fiction, if you want us to, dig into that, send me your links and we'll discuss that, because fan fiction is one of the things coming up. We also have something coming up that I put on the schedule for, and these are all things I had scheduled before the interviews had to be paused. So we have fan fiction, we have member or fan's choice. So if you want to come on and if there's any subject about Sanditon that you want to talk about and I haven't touched on, we haven't talked about touching on, and you want to do that, tell me what it is. You can send me an email at the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on our Facebook page. We also have Twitter and Instagram, which is, they're different variations, but if you search the Sanditon Chronicles, you'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So I only have one Facebook group, by the way. It is Family Fan Club, so if you search for the Sanditon Chronicles, Sanditon Family Fan Club, all of our Family Fan Club groups will come up, and there's 15. So there is that, but there is only one, the Sanditon Chronicles Facebook page. There's only one. But if you have an idea that you want us to talk about, let me know, and I would love to talk about that. I'll do some research on whatever the topic is. We'll dig into it as long as it's related to Sanditon. If you want to come on and talk to me about that, please come on and talk to me about that. I would love to talk with you. This pandemic has been really hard on everybody, and I fell in love with this show in the midst of the pandemic. I think I found it, because it aired here in January of 2020, I think I found it right before the last 2 episodes aired. So I was able to binge watch the first 6 real fast, and then I had to wait a week for the next 2. That was hard. It was really hard. So I fell in love with this over the pandemic. And, you couldn't go out. You couldn't go anywhere. And I totally understand that this is not the worst of our issues with the pandemic. Staying inside and being bored is not the worst of it by far. There's a lot of terrible things that have happened through this pandemic, through this disease, through COVID. There's a lot of really horrible things that have happened, but that's kind of the benefit of doing things like this, is it's bringing us back together, and it's a way to escape from all the things that are going on, that we're being bombarded by all these terrible things that are happening all the time. We want to offer you an escape. I want to offer you an escape, and quite frankly, I need an escape. So I fell in love with Sanditon during the podcast, and in that time when you couldn't go out, that's when I really started to dig deep into the other fan groups that we run. I think it was actually I've been doing this. Wow, I've been in Family Fan Clubs for almost 2 years. Wow, that's weird. It was around May of 2019 when I really got into, or 2020, right? Yes, May of 2020 when I got into Family Fan Clubs. And it was the February, March when I started watching Sanditon. So it was through this fan club group, this Family Fan Club group, that I actually met some of my best friends. That, I talk to them every single day. If there's a day that goes by and I don't talk to them, I'm like, I feel lost. Janice has become I consider her to be a good friend of mine. We've talked about personal things before we record, and we've really gotten to know each other a little bit, and we really get to talk about something we love. So if you love this show and you just want someone to talk to about it, or you just want to bond with someone over something that you both enjoy, I would love to talk with you. That's my sweet spot. That's what I love. I love to talk. I like to meet new people. I'm an ambivert, so I'm totally cool talking with people, and I'm not afraid, I'm not shy, but then I also really like being in my home by myself with quiet. So I can relate to you on your level. If you want to come on here, you want to talk about something that's close to your heart about Sanditon, let me know. And I would love to talk with you about it, or at least talk about the subject you want. So we really need your help in that, because we are down to, I think we only have 3 or 4 character spotlights left to go, and then that's about to go away too, because we will have covered all of them. And the same thing with the character relationship dynamics. We only have 3 or 4 of those, and that's done too. So I only have about 3 to 4 more runs where we're going to go through a series, which is, interview, recap, spotlight, relationship. That's a series. those 4 are one series. So we only have about 3 to 4 more series to go. And then I'm out of our original lineup until season 2 airs in March. So, I mean, that is 12, maybe 12 more episodes that I have that aren't going to reflect on the show itself in terms of what we've been doing. So I would really like to know what you want to hear about. If nothing else, we might take a break. I really don't want to take a break because I really do like doing this every week. So let us know. Fan fiction's in the works. Send me your links for fan fiction. We're going to talk about some parallels and ironies coming up soon. Janice and I are going to record that probably next week, I'm guessing. We'll record it next week. But next Sunday, remember, next Sunday is going to be our live show. Now, you may not know this about me, but I'm a big football fan. I like sports. I'm a coach, so I do a lot of things, guys. I do a lot of things. But for 2.5 months out of every year, I'm a volleyball coach. And so I like sports. I really like them. And I'm a hardcore Green Bay Packers fan. I don't know if you guys in the UK, I don't know if you know who the Packers are, or we got some people from France, we got some people from Russia, we got some people from South Africa and China. I'm not sure if you know who the Packers are, but that's my American football team. I love them. And I schedule my life around their Sunday games. I literally schedule my life around their Sunday games. So next week, we are going to do the live. We have been doing the lives at 6, and that might be a problem. Maybe that's why we aren't getting a lot of people on. But the game will be done at 3 o'clock Central Time next Sunday. So our live will come out at 3:30 Central American Time, Central Standard Time. So be prepared for that. Watch for that. Schedule for that. Please, please, please come on and talk to me. Come on and talk to us. I'd love to talk with you. So that's the way things are going to go. I'm sorry this was more of like an informational one, but I gave you a little bit of myself in here too. I want to make sure that this is a success, not just because I want it to be a success because I started it, but I want this to be a space where we can talk about something that we really, really love without harshness, I like talking about it on Twitter. I've met a lot of people on Twitter through campaigning to save Sanditon. I have met a lot of people on there, and I really enjoy a lot of the people I've met. But there's also a lot of people that come back really nasty sometimes. And the same can be said on Facebook, and the same can be said on Instagram. Well, Instagram not so much, at least that I've seen with Sanditon. So there are these spaces that it's great dialogue, it's great to talk, but there's this nastiness that can be associated with it. And I want this to be a space where it's fun all the time. It's fun and it's happy all the time, and we can complain about things, absolutely, because I wouldn't be me if I couldn't complain about things. But overall, I would like this to be a space where we talk well of Sanditon, well of the people in Sanditon, well of the fandom, because, I mean, guys, we have the greatest fandom that I think that has ever existed. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that. What other show has gotten their show renewed just because their fandom petitioned so hard and so long for it? That not only did they get 1, but 2 extra seasons out of it. When it was canceled, it was donezo. It was not coming out. We got 2 more seasons. And yes, it's largely in part due to the workings, the hard workings of the Sanditon Sisterhood, which, by the way, I'm not associated with the Sanditon Sisterhood. I love them. I think they're awesome women. I think they've done a fantastic job. I love their Q&As. I participate when I can. Oftentimes Sundays, I'm either watching the Packer game, or I'm recording a podcast, or I'm editing a podcast, so I don't get to participate on their Sunday Q&As a lot. But I love what they did. I love what they do. I think they're phenomenal people. I really, really do. And if you do not know who the Sanditon Sisterhood is, go look them up on Twitter. Go look them up. They have a Facebook group too called the Sanditon Sisterhood. They do so many awesome things for this fandom. So many awesome things. They've gotten cast and crew to do Q&As. They've gotten cast and crews to do shoutouts. Even when I've interviewed some of the cast and crew, they've asked me, so are you with the Sanditon Sisterhood? Because it's transcended to all the cast and crew. They're that good. So yes, it's a large part due to that, but we have all fought hard for this. And I think even with our other podcasts, we do cast interviews there too with the different shows that we run. And several times when I've talked to someone whose show has been canceled or the show is no longer in existence, I've brought up, hey, the Sanditon Sisterhood got renewed for Sanditon. We could do it for you too. Because that's how good our fandom is. That's how powerful our fandom is. So I don't want to stop this. I don't want to leave this world. And I think I've talked about this before. When I read Pride and Prejudice, which I read about once a year, because do I need a reason? I'm not going to give you a reason because I don't need one. If you don't read Pride and Prejudice once a year, I mean, get on it. Go do it. But when I read that book, oftentimes I am not ready to get out of that world. I don't want to leave it because it's so good and it's so pure and it's so, I don't know, there's just something about Jane Austen and how she relates to you and how she speaks to you. And Justin Young and Andrew Davies, the Austen team of writers for Sanditon, have done the same for this show. But I don't want to leave the world yet. So what I'll do is I'll dig into fanfiction after fanfiction after fanfiction. I'll watch all these movies that have these adaptations like Austenland. I'll watch, usually that's towards the end of me coming out of that because it's very modern, but with that. Great movie, by the way. Carrie Russell's in it, and I think that you should watch it if you haven't seen it. It's awesome. Austenland is the name of it. But I'll watch shows like that. I'll watch shows like Clueless. I'll watch shows like, and again, those more modern ones are at the end of it. But my point here is that I don't want to leave this world. I want to immerse myself in it when I can. I am a mother. I'm an event planner. I'm done coaching for the year, but I am an event planner. I'm a mother. I work at my church, but I want to be in this world as much as I can as well. So I don't want to leave. I don't want to go on a hiatus. I don't want to take a season break. Like I said, I will in December for a couple weeks, probably. Hopefully I'm doing interviews in that time. I'll let you know if that's going to happen, but I don't want to leave this. I don't want to stop talking about it. I don't want to stop the momentum here. And so we really want this to be successful for that reason. And because I know that there's people like me. So we want to keep this going. So remember, if you are watching this or if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you listen to this on Spotify or Pandora or any other podcast, I mean, our podcast is on almost every platform you can think of. There's a couple I think it hasn't gone on, maybe, but it's on all of the main ones for sure and almost all the other ones as well. Subscribe to our podcast. And we're working on getting up a website so you can be on our emailing list where we're going to start doing stuff like that. We're going to be coming out with you some merch. So, and it's not just going to be, hey, Sanditon Chronicles only. It's going to be some things with the show. It's going to be Sanditon, all right? So these are all things that we feel that we need to do in order to make this a successful thing. And I know I've said it before, and maybe I need to explain it more, but the more successful we are in this podcast, the more followers we have, the more downloads we have for the videos and the shows. When I say the better content we can bring you, I'm mainly talking about cast and crew things. The more validated we get by our listeners, the more cast and crew are willing to come on to be interviewed. There are several cast and crew members who I interviewed in the beginning of this, like way back in March when I started. I actually started this podcast on my birthday. But it just so happens that we're going to celebrate a yearly big woohoo, and it's going to be my birthday, so double thing there. But there's several agents from the cast members who have said, how many listeners do you have? Hit us up again when you have more people watching. So that's why I push that. It's not because, hey, I want you to make me success. I know from talking with the industry reps that to bring you the best kind of content I can give you, we need to have listeners. And I really do want to thank you for listening to us and watching our podcast and helping us out by being a part of this. That I want to be able to have contests every once in a while where we can give you swag or we can give you free things. We did that in our Sanditon group. We had some games in there on our Facebook group. And I did send out, I do vinyls. I have a Cricut machine and we make vinyls for fabrics, but we also make them for like water bottles, things like that are, iron-on vinyls and non-iron-on vinyls. And we had sent out some vinyls that people can put on their tote bags. So we'd like to do that for you, only send you the actual tote bag or the actual water bottle, the actual t-shirt. But we can't do that unless this becomes something that is sustainable. So that's why I push that. It's not because, hey, make me great. It's not about that. It's, I really want to bless you and I really want to make it fun for you, as much fun as I have, because I really love doing this. And honestly, if we aren't successful, if we don't get a lot of viewers, I might still continue talking to this because I like it. I just do. So just to give our socials again, if you want to reach out to us via email, let us know what you want to hear next, what you want to see next. Give us your fan fiction links. If you want to make a friend and talk about Sanditon, we're here for that too. You can find us at our email at the.sanditonchronicles@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook under the Sanditon Chronicles Sanditon Family Fan Club. We are also on Twitter and Instagram under, just search the Sanditon Chronicles. There are two different handles, but search the Sanditon Chronicles will come up. I think Instagram is like the.sanditon.chronicles and Twitter is at sanditon because it wouldn't let me do it the other way around for some weird reason. So those are our socials. We're not going to do a TikTok for this channel. I don't think that would work very well. And I started TikTok for our other one. I don't understand it. I am not that cool. I'm cemented in the past, which is good for this podcast though, right? We are working on getting up a website where you can be able to buy merch from us, where you can be able to reach out to us, get on an emailing list, learn what's coming up, see previews, that sort of thing. So we're working on that for you. All this to say, you know, I appreciate you. I appreciate every single one of you that is watching this on YouTube or listening to this on your podcast platform. I really, really appreciate you. I want to thank you for tuning in every week. I want to thank you for being graceful when I miss a week or when I'm behind on things. The COVID fog is lifting. Thank you, God. So hopefully that won't be an issue much longer. But I really want to thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And next week, make sure you are ready to join that live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern or Central Standard Time. Central Standard Time, 3:30 p.m. next Sunday, which is the 21st, I believe. Tune in. We'll see you then. Bye, guys.